So here are what they are. Just like I started by saying, marketing is about people, I believe companies succeed because of the quality of the people. That many companies are very much like sports teams, that if you have better players who and a great culture working together, aligned against a goal, that team is likely to win. So you need two things. You need better players, and you need a culture that allows them to work together against a goal. Sometimes you can have better players who hate each other and that team doesn't work, okay? So you need those two things. So therefore, I tell management of companies, it's like sports teams, and most management people watch sports teams. So I said, you need better players, a disproportionate share of talent, and you need them to work together. So then they basically ask me, how do you identify great talent? Or what are the skills that great talent needs to have? So that's where I came up with the 6 C's. Okay. And this was in my career. This is what I discovered. After 30, 40 years, I discovered this. 3 of the C's have to do with a person, and 3 of the C's have to do with how a person works with other people. The 3 of them are innate to the person. So when you're looking at the person, you should look for these 3, which are cognition and creativity and curiosity. Okay. So cognition is intelligence. Okay. And if you have a job that requires a lot of intelligence and the person is not intelligent, it's not going to work. Okay. It's not going to work. And so you can check for intelligence through a conversation with people, right? So that's one. The second one is curiosity. Is the person curious? Do they ask questions? Because if you don't have curious, you can't separate yourself from a machine. You can't solve problems. And third is creative. Can you connect dots in new ways, which are not obvious? Again, machines create dots in obvious ways, but not in new ways. So you can go and put anything you want about the topics I write on into ChatGPT. Nothing will look like my stuff. But a lot of other people's stuff will look like ChatGPT. Right? Because they don't connect dots in new ways. They don't bring in human insights. They don't interrogate and question. They just barf out what's out there. A machine can barf out what's out there. Okay? So curiosity, creativity, and cognition are the first 3 C's. But unless you are like me, who in one part of my life is a writer, so I can sit at home with curiosity, creativity, and cognition. But most people, including myself, when I worked in my career and when I do my other parts of my job, which are my advisory business and my speaking business, requires you to work with other people.
Yeah.
So in addition to having these skills, you need to have these other 3 skills, which are collaboration. How do you work with other people? Communication. Can you actually write and speak? Right? And then the third one is convincing, which is eventually everybody is a salesperson. You have to sell your idea. You have to sell your point of view. So I look for those 6. Now, it's very rare that someone has A+ on all 6. But what I look for is, do they have at least A in 1 or 2?
Mm-hmm.
And do they not have a C or a D in the collaboration, communication, and convincing place? Because if you are bad, really bad at collaborating, communicating, and convincing, doesn't matter if you've got all A's on curiosity, creativity, and cognition, you will fail. Okay? Because people will not work with you. Right? And you've seen so many times amazingly brilliant people failing inside companies because the company doesn't take. On the same end, if you get a person who's very good at convincing and communicating and collaborating, which is fantastic if you're a salesperson, the salesperson also requires one of the other C's minimum. Curiosity to ask what problem they're solving, creativity to try to solve the client's problems that they're selling in a different way, right? And cognition just to understand what's going on. But everybody requires some combination of these skills, these 6 C's. And so what I look for is, can I get many of them? And can I make sure I don't get somebody with a D or an F, especially on the right-hand side?
So how can someone acquire these skills?
So almost all of them are acquirable. One of them you can shift a little bit. The others you can shift a lot. Okay. The one that you can shift a little bit is cognition, which is your intelligence. And that is basically, everybody has I think the average intelligence, is in the 90 to 110 IQ range. Okay. You can operate, let's say you're at that 90 to 110. With a little bit of help, you can get to 110 versus 90. Okay. So you can get to the extreme of what you're capable of. And that is primarily through doing the other 5 things well. So if you do the other 5 C's, which are all teachable, this one also improves. In curiosity, it's basically asking people the following questions. So I always tell people, you want to be curious, ask the following 3 questions to people. That's simple. Number 1, what are the 3 people in your life that changed you, right? Or what are the 3 events in life that changed you? Or what are the 3 decisions you made that changed you?
Wow.
Right? And very quickly, you'll learn about the other person. And you learn about a whole bunch of things. And so that's how you can build curiosity, by just asking, what if, right? What if this wasn't the way? What if I took something else? So that's one. When it comes down to creativity, it is basically exposing yourself to culture. And by culture, I tell people in my book, I have a chapter called Inserting Poetry into the PowerPoint. Okay. And what I've learned about that is broadly culture means go to concerts, watch a lot of television, read, right? Go to exhibitions and talk about it. Because what tends to basically happen is you see artists create by creating dots in new ways, right? And by exposing yourself to artists of every type, vocal artists, sculptural artists, film artists, you begin to grow, right? And then you always ask, when you see one of these things, what are the 3 things in this particular thing that I liked a lot or disliked a lot, and why? What were the 3 best scenes in the movie? What were the 3 best paragraphs or 3 best stories in this book you read, right? And why? And then you begin to see patterns. That's creativity. So creativity, curiosity is by asking the questions, and cognition. In collaboration and in communication, there's no way you can learn to communicate without practicing. So write and get people to constantly edit your writing, speak and get people to communicate and give you back feedback on your speaking. When I was growing up, I was in my first evaluations considered. Growing up means in my business career. My first 2-3 years, my weaknesses were my ability to write and my ability to present. And I was given constant feedback and constant help on how to improve those, right? Today, I'm an author and I'm a professional speaker. But by the way, when I started, they said, you don't know how to speak and you don't know how to write. And the way through it was practicing how to speak and write with people constantly kicking me on how to make it better, right? So that's how you do the convincing as well as the communication. And the collaboration is basically recognizing that your success is through other people. You scale through other people, right? You don't scale through yourself. If you're by yourself, you don't scale. You scale through other people.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, when I was working even at Publicis, the reason I was successful is not because of what I did, but because of all the people around me who I helped and what they did. Okay. And that made me great. So collaboration isn't necessarily a not selfish thing. By helping other people, you help yourself.